Hi everybody, welcome back for another video. In today's video, we are going to discuss as many of the planner sizes as are currently available. We're going to be talking about discs, we're going to be talking about rings, and we're going to be talking about traveler's notebooks. So I've made some templates of all of the variety of planners so you can get a good aspect or like ratio of what the actual paper size looks like. I will be uploading these to a Google Dropbox so you can download some freebies, so you can print on a piece of paper so you can actually see in your own person what the size actually looks like. So we're gonna start with like the smallest of the small in the rings. So the smallest rings that we have is called a mini rings. And most of your ring systems have 6 rings. The mini has only 5. So it is smaller, it is very, very, very tiny, as you can see. So the mini rings is 2.63 wide by 4.13 high. It is quite tiny, and I made a little dashboard here so you could kind of see with a picture what it could possibly look like if you made dashboards or dividers for your mini ring or your mini 5. Companies that make these mini ring planners are Filofax. Filofax makes them in the Malden line, and they've got them in like a navy blue, a black, a gray, that beautiful ochre brown, and a few of their others, like the Finsbury has a mini version. But this is the smallest, well, currently the smallest ring size that we have. The mini rings, or the mini 5, since it has 5 rings instead of 6. Now, the next size that we have, and this is a more common size, and it is the pocket rings. So the pocket rings is 3.25 width by 4.75 in height. And this is a size that you can find the, like Filofax makes them in that size. Giglio, Vanderspec, so many do. So that is pocket rings. Next size we have is pocket plus. Pocket rings plus. And those are 3.5 in width by 5 in height. And this sometimes is called like the passport traveler's notebook size, roughly, 3.5 by 5, but it is pocket rings plus. So you can see there's just a little bit of extra space as we work our way from mini pocket rings plus. Is the A6. A6 rings are 4.1 by 5.8. That's the actual measurements of an A6 piece of paper. Due to the odd measurements of 4.1 by 5.8, sometimes manufacturers of inserts will round them up and down. They'll make them 4 by 6, kind of like a standard size of an American photograph, 4 by 6. But the original is 4.1 by 5.8. Now this size is incredibly common. It was the first ring size that I got into. And actually, I think it was only the third traveler's notebook size I got into. And it is personal rings. And is very common. 3.75 wide by 6.75 tall. So you can see it's narrower than the A6, but taller than the A6. So that's personal rings. Now, just like with the Pocket, how we had Pocket Plus, we do have something called personal wide. Now, the personal wide is a little bit wider and a little bit taller. It is 4.7 wide, and actually it's the same height, 6.75. So you can see personal rings, personal wide rings. So there's a good inch added to the personal wide. And this is a really common size. A lot of people really like this size. Next is a size called the Franklin Covey. Franklin Covey make their own planners, and it's very close to the personal wide. And in most Franklin Covey planners, you can fit personal wide rings. They are 4.25 by 6.75 high. So it's the same height as the personal or personal wide, just a little bit wider than the personal, or just a little bit narrower than the personal wide. So you have, in the personal size, 3 good options. A size that's becoming more popular is the B6 rings. The B6 rings are 5.7 wide by 7 high. And sometimes people, due to the 0.3, can be a little challenging to measure. Sometimes they just make it 5 by 7. They will round it down a little bit. So that is B6 rings. A very common size is the A5 rings. A5 rings are 5.8 wide by 8.43 high. And sometimes that 0.3 can be 0.25. It really depends, but that's technically what it should be. And that leads us to there is another one. There is the A5 wide. And the A5 wide is 7 inches by 8.3. So it's the exact same height, just 1.2-ish inches wider. So you can see we're getting to quite a large piece of paper. Now for the Americans, because this is more of a European size, we do have something called half letter. And letter paper or letter size is the common American. If you just go to any office supply store and buy a ream of paper, that's most likely going to be letter unless you get a ledger or some other size. And it's basically just that folded in half, 5.5 by 8.5. If you have, say, a Franklin Covey or a large Franklin Covey, if you have a Filofax or any A5 ring binder, if you have an A5, the half letter fits in it perfectly, no problem. So these larger sizes would be half letter, A5 wide, and the A5 rings. And then there's one more size that we have. Yes, there's a larger size, and that is letter size. And there are, this is just like your standard 3-ring binder. I know I've made calendars in this size, and I've had them coil bound. I've also some that I've just punched in a traditional 3-ring binder, and that's 8.5 by 11. And it's a really good size, I think, for teachers, and especially if it's a digital printable, it's much easier to manage than the ones that you have to do lots of cutting. So those are the sizes that we have. And in the folder that is for the rings, this dashboard will be available in all sizes. I just thought I would make a little dashboard so everybody could see exactly what it looks like. So there'll be 3 PDFs, one for the measurements, and they will all have crop lines except for the letter, because there's no need for that. They'll have the crop lines for that, and then you'll have this front page, and then you'll have the back page if you wanted to, instead of have it be whatever color you're printing on. I just printed on white. So those are your ring sizes. Next system that we have is the disc system, and we have quite a few sizes. This is a newer system to me. It's something that I've been playing around with this month of June, and I'm going to play around with it in July, and I'm really liking it. Smallest size we have is the Micro Happy Planner discs. So Micro Happy disc is 3 by 4, so it's kind of a tiny size. So there's the micro. And the Happy Planner sizes are named weird. They have a skinny mini Happy Planner disc, and that's 2.65 by 7. So it's really narrow and really tall. Skinny mini. The next size that we have is the mini Happy Planner, which is 4.625 by 7 high. It's a good size. It's almost like 4 by 7. You know, it's a really good size. Then the next size that we have is 5.5 by 8.5, and that's half letter. So just like with the rings, we have a half letter. And this size in the arc and in the tool is called the junior size. So it is half letter or junior size, 5.5 by 8.5. We have something called the Classic Happy Planner, and that's like a larger size Happy Planner, and that's 7 wide by 9.25 high, and it's very similar to like Erin Condren's size, except of course it has discs instead of a coil. Now, because they have this size, Happy Planner also has something called the half page Happy Planner discs, and so it is 4.125 by 9.25. So you can see it is the same height, just half of a little bit more than half of the width, but because of the punch is why they call it a half page. So this would be considered like the page. This is half of that. And then the last one that we have is letter size. So just like with the rings, like a 3-hole punch, you can have a disc system that is letter size. So it's 8.5 wide by 11. So that's your largest. So those are your discs. I did design a disc cover, and it is available in all of these sizes, just like the rings. So when you go to the Dropbox folder for the discs, it'll have this. Not this one. It'll have something that you can download in all of those sizes and print along with the templates. Just like with the rings, they will all come with the crop marks, so it'll make your cutting very easy. And that would be a good thing. So like, say you want to try a new disc or ring size, you know, like, can you get everything that you want on the go in this? Cut a bunch of paper down to this size and, you know, punch it and see what you think. Okay, the last thing we have is the Traveler's Notebook. And there are quite a few sizes of traveler notebooks. The first one we have is the Micro TN, or Micro Traveler's Notebook. And it's the exact same size as the micro discs, 3 by 4. This is a very common size for wallets and like a pocket calendar for on the go, or a pocket notebook for just writing down things when you're out and about. The next size we have is the Passport Traveler's Notebook, and that is 3.5 by 4.88. And sometimes people will, instead of 4.88, because that can get difficult to measure, they will just make it 3.5 by 5. The next one we have is the Pocket TN, which is 3.5 by 5.5. Now this is larger than the Pocket Rings. Some manufacturers will also call it the Fieldnotes size, because this is the dimensions of the brand Fieldnotes in their pocket notebooks. Now, just like we had A6 in the rings, we also have A6 in the Traveler's Notebook, 4.1 by 5.8. And again, sometimes people will round these numbers to be 4 by 6. Just like we had the personal rings, we have the Personal Traveler's Notebook, 3.75 by 6.75. It's the exact same dimensions, just in a saddle-stitched bound book instead of loose leaf papers. The next size we have is the B6 Traveler's Notebook, which is 4.9 width by 6.9 height. And just like with the rings, people will take those numbers and round them up to 5 by 7, like a large American size photograph, 5 by 7. The next size we have is the standard Traveler's Notebook size, and that is 4.33 by 8.25. If you're in Europe or Asian countries, it would be 11 by 21. And sometimes, because the 0.33 is challenging to measure in our American system, people will round that down to 4.25 or 4.25 by 8.25. It's a very common size, very common. The next size we have is the B6 Slim. The B6 Slim is that says 4.3, but it should be 3.3. Well, depending on your manufacturer. So yeah, 4.33 I would go by 6.9, or some, due to the 0.9 being challenging to measure, they will make it 7, 4.33 by 7, or sometimes they will round that down to 4.25 by 7. So there's the standard and the B6 Slim. Now, the Hobo Weeks size has become very popular. And so people started making the Hobo Weeks in a Traveler's Notebook size, because it was kind of an in-between size. It's 3.25 wide by 7 tall. So it's narrower than the Fieldnotes or Pocket TN, but slightly taller than the Personal. So it's a very popular size. Now there's another size that sometimes people will choose, and that is the Hobo Weeks Wide. And it's 3.5 by 7.25 high. So it's 1/4 inch wider and 1/4 inch taller, to give you just a little extra space. There's a size that became very popular because of the Moleskine brand, and they call it the Cahier size. Cahier just means notebook, but that name stuck, and people still call it a cahier, even though a notebook, like a traveler's notebook in any of the previous sizes, are also cahiers. But what most people talk about when they say cahier size, they mean this size, 5 inches wide by 8.25 high. It's a really common size notebook for Moleskine, Piccadilly, and a few others. So the cahier size. We also have like half-letter traveler's notebooks. This, because of America, has made it everywhere. 5.5 by 8.5. And the last one that we have is the A5, which is 5.8 wide, so it's a little bit wider, by 8.25, so it's just a little bit shorter. Now, if you have a half-letter traveler's notebook, A5 will fit in it. If you have an A5, most likely the half-letter will fit in it, but it really depends on the manufacturer. Now, just like with the other, I have made a cover in all of these sizes, and I've used it for my July insert. So this is it's a very simple design, just some loop-de-loops on the on my iPad in Procreate to look like little florals or leaves. But this will come in all sizes, and it will have the crop marks that you need for all sizes. The hardest one to get the crop marks to print is the standard size. You have to make sure that you have it set correctly, but you will be able to get this design in all of these sizes. So that's just something that I wanted to share because I've had conversations with some people in the last few weeks about the varying sizes of traveler's notebook rings and discs. And I haven't seen a video that really goes in to explain the different sizes where you can physically see the different sizes. Now, one thing that's nice about the disc system is you can take any of these traveler's notebook sizes and turn them into a disc-bound system. So there you go. I will try to get linked below the Dropbox folders or Google Share folders that will have the files where you can print yourself a template, and then also the dashboards or traveler's notebook covers. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below, and I will get back with you as soon as I can. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.